I'm Kimberly Warner. I've had crazy success in direct sales by simply being myself and learning a few things along the way. Succeed on your terms and have fun doing it.
Welcome back, everybody, to our second part in our Party Talk podcast series with Kimberly Warner, Senior Vice President, Sales Leader from Wisconsin. Kimberly's part 2 is all about her post-party inventory. Welcome back, Kimberly.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so excited to be here.
So, now the party's over. Time to reflect. The good, the bad, the ugly. What went well, what didn't? So what is that? What does that look like?
Okay, so this is something we call the post-party inventory. And, we train our teams on this. What's great, it's great to have a pre-party anthem, but if you don't evaluate yourself after, what's really the point? So this is really just a physical inventory. It's actually on paper, and we give it to our team to take with them to their parties. You can either complete it really quickly, before you're leaving the show in the car or once you get home, but you want to do it like as immediately as you can before the details of the night are forgotten. Or if you tend to do a couple parties in a row, you forget, well, was that Tuesday night that happened or Wednesday night? So it's a quick and easy sort of thing that you can do, and it kind of will actually show you a pattern the more you do. So the more parties that you complete these and you go through them, you can really identify some behaviors. And I've been able to work with a few leaders where going through their inventories have been able to kind of identify some of their challenges. And then we kind of knew we had a map and we knew where to coach and where to work to get them over that hump. So here are the 5 questions on the inventory. It's kind of basic, but they can be detailed. So number 1 is what went well tonight. And obviously that's pretty easy. What was great? What went well? And that spreads from everything from, the guest reception to the party to you, but also to sales, bookings, and potential recruiting conversations. Number 2, why did it go well? What specific behaviors did you exude that resulted in a positive party? So you think about those things. What did you do? Did you ask every single person if they wanted to have a party and you had more bookings this party than ever before? And maybe you didn't exude that behavior at your previous parties because you were, tired and you just wanted to get out and you only asked a couple people, or, you knew that your kid was homesick and so you wanted to rush, so you only asked the really excited person in the party, if they wanted to have a booking, things like that. Question number 3, what could have gone better? What behaviors did you lack that may have helped your results? So again, this is just thinking about what didn't I do that I should have done? And that's sometimes hard to think about, and it's really probably hard to write down, but it makes such a big difference because sometimes you just know what you did, but until you write it down, you don't have that aha moment, that connection. So
you don't do that little deeper dive, or where you think about what could I, not just what went bad or what went well, but why. I love that that's what this does.
Yeah, and it's specific behaviors. You really have to think kind of hard. The first time you do it, it might be hard, but they get easier. Did I drop seeds throughout the party, or did I not? Did I take time to get to know each, guest and know how they knew the hostess, or did I just start the party, without even getting to know them? What behaviors did I lack that probably could have helped build the rapport and build the results? The question number 4, what mentally got in your way that prevented you from doing what you should have? So this kind of goes back to, did you do your pre-party anthem? Like, were you not feeling well? Were you thinking about your sick kid? Were you, what mentally was your challenge? Or, just the guilt factor. Like, were you feeling bad because you left, a crying baby with your husband, even though the baby's probably totally fine and sleeping now? What was on your mind that you weren't able to put aside for 2 hours to do your show? And that could have gotten in the way.
Were you distracted when you walked in? Were you, all those things instead of were you connecting with people?
Right, because if you can identify those things, like what mentally got in your way, then you can go back to the pre-party anthem and say, okay, what can I do pre-party to avoid this mental block? What can I do pre-party? Can I make sure that I have, dinner pre-made so that I'm not stressing about, my husband making, nachos for dinner or whatever, that sort of thing. So, and number 5, were there any outside factors at the party that distracted your performance? So this is huge, right? Crying kids, nosy dogs, a rowdy group. I mean, there's been so many parties where there have been kids running around, diapers falling off. There's been dogs that are like way more than me and they're like jumping on me and I'm not a big dog person, or people that are, really rowdy and they're having a great time and they're all talking and you're trying to talk and you don't really know how to rein that in. That I hear this from consultants all the time, new and old, that it's hard. Those things distract your performance. So how can you use those things to your advantage and alter their power of distraction? So that is something that takes some brainstorming. And, it can be something simple like there's kids, running around, but maybe you incorporate the kids, in some way. You give them a product and, you have them pass it around or you have them hand out catalogs, things like that. And so sometimes that just takes some brainstorming with your team.
And I think it takes a little bit for new people on the call. You also get better as you go. I mean, that kind of thing can just completely throw you in the very beginning, and then you just you really do figure those things out. But you're right. They are definitely factors that throw a curveball at you.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And so also, this physical inventory is going to, grow as you find yourself writing different things. You're going to be more cognizant. You're going to notice things more that you didn't notice before, that maybe you didn't think those crying kids were distracting you, but they were. And so, as you kind of take note of it, you're going to know how to prevent it too.
And the other thing I love about those questions is that a lot of times we always want to put the blame on other people, or the reason the party wasn't successful was because there were only 2 people there, or, so it's instead you're reflecting on, as you mentioned, your behaviors and on what you can do differently.
Think outside the box. What could you have done to get that third person who hadn't had a party with you yet book a party that night? And that sometimes is hard because you're really evaluating, yourself. But yeah, it makes the difference.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. So that's wonderful. Love that. Okay, so anything else, Kimberly?
Well, then, there's a few lines at the end of the inventory that are kind of free form. And this is just a section where we talk about the power of if you didn't get paid, so the didn't get paid mentality. So I ask my team all the time, what if you didn't get paid to do this? Like, what if you didn't get paid at all? You love Norwex. What if everything that you did was all about the hostess? Would you do things any differently to help your hostess achieve the most Norwex possible? What if this was your volunteer work kind of thing? And sometimes that takes away the stress of, asking for upsales, for example, like, oh, we have, the spend and get special. Sometimes people feel like they're, pushy or they're trying to ask for more sales and they don't want to. But if you weren't getting paid off of that and you were just trying to help your hostess, you would want every $5 possible to get your hostess more of the free benefits, right? Because, you're doing it all for her. So if you can kind of twist your mentality that way, it almost makes the really difficult asks, like, to upsell to a package versus just the basic set or, just the Enviro cloth or something to up that to the basic, to be able to not only upsell, but to ask for bookings because it benefits the hostess and that sort of thing. Instead of thinking about how it affects you and what you're going to get out of it, if you can think of the power of you're not getting paid, what would you do differently? And that's pretty powerful. Sometimes we brainstorm that in meetings a lot. So, and think about things like if, every time you went into a home and you sold one household pack, that might equal one, kid breathing healthier air, then, it's worth it. So you might have those bummer parties. We all have. You go in, 2 people show up and it's, maybe $150 or whatever, but you still make 35% of that, which is way better than working at the mall. And if you think of your time on those bummer parties as volunteerism, because you're giving your all, no matter how big or small the party is, there's still a Broadway show. if you walk out and you've affected 2 people to want to change their life and start incorporating some Norwex, you've made a difference. So even if you didn't make, $100 or $200 in commission, it was your volunteer time to the world to, spread the mission of healthier homes. So if you want to free-form any of that at the bottom, what if I didn't get paid? What could I have done differently? That sometimes thinking of it that way helps. So that's the post-party inventory.
That's a great way to evaluate yourself and each party that you do. So you can tweak it, and hopefully that leads to more successful 422 parties using that post-party inventory. So I always like to end with a couple of action steps for everybody. So for today's podcast, which we're really going to think about in 2 parts, right? Hopefully you tuned into part 1. So part 1 was all about your pre-party anthem. So what 2 things could you do based on all the tips that Kimberly shared that you could create your own pre-party anthem or tweak yours? And then print out the inventory, put it on your phone, and complete it after your next party. You might see things you never saw before that would help you and your teams grow and to help your parties evolve in such a positive way. So I first thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with us. I love all the tips that you shared. You can catch us anytime on your favorite podcast site because we're on iTunes, Google Play, as well as SoundCloud. And remember, what you do before and after party is just as important as what happens at the party. That's what's going to lead to successful 422 parties. So, yeah, go. Get your game face on. Until next time.
Thanks for stopping by funauthenticsuccess.com. If you found this video helpful, there's a lot more where that came from. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for our mailing list, and feel free to download any of my documents located under the resource tab. Don't be a stranger. Y'all come back now, you hear?